speak. Isaiah Thomas, who saw this one coming, that the blockbuster trade involving the Celtics and Cavs may have hit a speed bump. That's after league sources telling our Adrian Wojnarowski that after Isaiah Thomas's physical yesterday, there's uncertainty over the fitness of his injured hip. So let's bring that man in right now, our ESPN NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. Adrian, it wasn't some secret that Isaiah Thomas had a bum hip. Walk us through exactly what happened yesterday with the Cavs and Thomas.
Isaiah Thomas went to Cleveland yesterday to take his physical. And as Cleveland's evaluated the medicals on this, they've had questions that they're still going through before they potentially finalize this deal for Kyrie Irving with Boston. And they spent last night and then into today discussing this internally and talking about how they want to proceed here. Right now, Cleveland's trying to make a decision, about whether they're going to approve this deal or either, and essentially they have two other options, either voiding it entirely or talking to Boston about maybe more compensation to push this deal through. But right now, they haven't yet signed off on the Kyrie Irving trade.
So from the conversations that you're having to this point, Adrian, what's more likely to happen? That they'll say, you know what, trade done, void, let's start back from square one, or that they'll find another way to make this palatable?
They haven't made that decision yet. And that's, for Cleveland, the injury to Isaiah Thomas this summer, what Boston's doctors had prescribed was rest and rehab. And, sources tell me that Isaiah hasn't yet started running as part of his rehab. And there have been questions, certainly here in the last week or two about whether Isaiah would be ready for the start of the season. And, Danny Ainge said after the trade was agreed upon that injured hip had some, and that was his quote, some impact in why he did the deal with the Cavaliers for Irving. But this is a difficult situation, especially for Isaiah Thomas, who's going into a contract year this year, will be a free agent next summer. And Irving, Irving's in Boston today, I'm told. He's taking his physical with the Celtics, and there's not expected to be any surprises there.
Yeah, and again, if you're just joining us, the surprise coming and developing last night that Isaiah Thomas's hip injury could potentially put this deal between the Cavs and the Celtics up for debate. And again, Adrian Wojnarowski saying that there might be some questions if they decide to go with this, that Isaiah Thomas might not be ready week one. Keep in mind, the Cavs do Derrick Rose on the roster as well at that point guard position, although he was believed to serve as a backup role. Listen, if LeBron James is waking up this morning saying Isaiah Thomas might not be ready to go for this team, what's he thinking? Dave McMenamin, our Cavs reporter, is going to join us in the next hour to give us the Cavs perspective. But I mentioned the hits just keep coming for Boston. That's not the only injury in the purview of Boston right now, not after last night. Julian Edelman and those Patriots taking on the Lions. And this is what you do not want to see on the opening possession. Watch Edelman here. You want to see the catch between him and Tom Brady. That's the good part. This is what you don't want to see. Your number one receiving option, receiver anyway, coming up lane, holding that right knee. He'd go off under the tent. Tom Brady would join him at some point. But if you watch it again, really looks to be kind of a non-contact drill or injury here, which is always bad. At this point, they are calling this a potential ACL injury. We've got more on that in just a little bit. It's next man up always in New England, and that next man up in this situation is Chris Hogan, who would step in and prove to be huge for a team. He proved to be huge on last season as well. Got the nickname Mr. Perfect. You see him teaming up there with Tom Brady. And watch him here in motion as well. He's going to turn up field. Finds him deep. They were looking for that deep threat. They assume it's going to come from Brandon Cook, so they take this from Chris Hogan 10 times out of 10. And again, Chris Hogan here, just the vision that he's got, His teammates saying he does everything right at practice and on the field as well. And if that injury to Edelman does prove to be season-ending, he looks to factor huge for the Patriots. Speaking of that Edelman injury, here's Adam Schefter with more.
As the Patriots filed out of Ford Field on Friday night and onto their team buses, players and coaches alike offered encouragement, hope, and prayers to the injured Patriots wide receiver Julian Edelman, who will undergo an MRI on Saturday to confirm what the Patriots feared on Friday night is a torn ACL. Somehow, they hope the test shows differently than what doctors initially suspected on the playing field when Edelman suffered a non-contact injury that usually means the dreaded torn anterior cruciate ligament. If Edelman is out for any extended period of time, the Patriots will have to lean more heavily on Brandon Cooks, on Rex Burkhead, on Mike Gillislee, on Dwayne Allen, on many of the players they acquired this offseason. But for now, their hopes and prayers are with Julian Edelman, who faces a key test on Saturday to confirm what the Patriots hope is not true.
And listen, I get it, and I did it too. You hear the Patriots, you hear an injury, and you think they've got 100,000 weapons, and so long as Tom Brady doesn't go down, they're good. But here's what the Patriots could be missing with Edelman now. Only Mike Evans and Odell Beckham Jr. had more targets than Edelman's 157 last season, and no other Patriots wide receiver had more targets than Chris Hogan's 54. In fact, Edelman had 21 more targets than all other Patriot wide receivers combined. So certainly some concerns there. But also in Kansas City, because while Tom Brady has plenty of weapons, they're a little bit weak in the backfield. Those Chiefs are. There's not a lot of depth there. Watch Spencer Ware, their #1 tailback, and former Seahawk playing his team. So he catches that screen pass from Alex Smith, but you see there, he gets hit a couple times, and he's trying to get up, and he just goes down. Same thing, clutching that knee. He's clearly in a lot of pain or some discomfort. And it looks like he injured his right knee just even before he gets hit. So again, we're talking about a non-contact injury, which Adam Schefter just said is usually not a good sign. He can't put a lot of weight on that leg either before he finally does go down. And we're going to let you see that, which is the worst side of all, being taken off the field on a golf cart, visibly upset. Sources did tell our Adam Schefter that it's a PCL injury. He'll have an MRI today to determine how much time that he'll have to miss, but that it's not as bad as they initially thought it might be. So Spencer Ware last season, a dual threat for those Chiefs. He led the team with over 900 rushing yards. He also collected another 400 yards receiving. Only 4 other players hit those 2 marks last season, and they were all Pro Bowl selections. So with that, to kind of react to all the injury news that we saw yesterday, we bring in our Jeff Saturday here on a Saturday. I don't know if you planned that, but well played. Let's start with the Patriots, the biggest injury of all. Should Julian Edelman be out for the season? If that's the worst case scenario, then what does this Patriots team look like trying to replace him? Yeah,
this is tough. I mean, obviously you're looking at Edelman, the relationship he and Tom Brady have, the chemistry they have. You saw what he did. I mean, the kid is, it's the perfect Patriot, right? I mean, this guy plays every week. He's so physical. He's a great blocker. He does all the things that you want him to do, plus his hands are insane. So this is going to be a big loss. But just like every loss that we've seen with the Patriots, whether it's Gronkowski or any other major player on their offense, they will find a way to replace, whether it's Amendola coming in or Hogan or by committee. They will find ways. Malcolm Mitchell will have to pick it up. Gronk will have to pick it up. And that's what they'll call on. And everybody in that building understands that it's the next guy up, and that's the only way you can do it. And Edelman understands that. It's always tough for me to watch guys like this being injured just because you know how spectacular he is to watch every Sunday. And you always hope the MRI comes back less than what they think. But from the Patriots' offensive perspective, my concern will be much more for the left tackle spot, making sure Solder gets back, than finding another replacement on the outside. Those guys are pretty deep at that position, and I think they'll be just fine. Again, just a couple weeks ago, we were talking about how is Danny Amendola going to figure into an offense that he was huge in their Super Bowl run just a couple of years ago. That's right. So he's got plenty there. But again, let's go to the Chiefs, who don't have plenty in the backfield, and they let Jamal Charles go, thinking we're in very capable hands with Spencer Ware and Charcandrick West. When it's all said and done,
And let's just assume that this isn't going to be a significant injury for Spencer Ware. Who do you think is going to be that leading rusher for KC?
I think it's got to go to Hunt. I mean, they brought him in for a reason. I really do. I think as you're looking at what this team wants to do, Hunt will be the guy who steps in. And even with West being there, he's going to come in and be that complimentary back the same way he would have been with Spencer, where you have C.J. Spiller who's still there. So it could be by committee until they do get him back. But the one thing about the Chiefs is Andy Reid. His play calling and design are really second to none. He does a fantastic job of getting the right players in the right places to allow that offense to be productive, especially in the run game. And so I expect that to come along. The hardest part of transition for a running back from the college ranks to the pros is pass blocking. Can he pick up the blitzes? Can he find the way to find the guy who's going to come free to make sure he takes the hit off of Alex Smith? And so I think, Andy Reid said it last night, even after the game, you're one play away, and everybody on this football team needs to understand that. And when you do have your opportunity, you got to seize it. And I think it's time for Hunt to see if he can seize it.
Boy, are you right. The quickest way to find yourself riding that pine is to not protect that quarterback,
it's
right?
It's a short life in the NFL. You can't protect that guy.
You are going to be sitting. Jeff Saturday's hanging out with us all morning long. He'll be back in the next hour to talk more NFL. It all comes to a head tonight. It's the cover of the Las Vegas Review Sports page, Battle Royale. For Mayweather, legacy is everything. Listen, it is fight night for good or for bad, and Tony Collins picks up our very early coverage from the desert this morning. It is still morning there, right? There's no sun, Tony.
It sure is, Elle. The lights are still shining bright here on the Strip. Here, I believe you are seeing a beautiful fountain at the Bellagio on the Strip, and we are here. We're ready. Finally, it's the day, Elle. The day, Elle, that we've been waiting for. We're about 15 and a half hours away from finally seeing Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Conor McGregor face-to-face in that ring. Months of buildup, of bad blood, of talk will finally be settled in the ring. And SportsCenter is going to be with you throughout the day. That is right, to help you get ready for one of the most hyped fights in boxing history. For the next 4 hours, we're going to be taking you inside the camps of both fighters, talk about the keys to victory, how Vegas is preparing to handle the huge influx of fight fans, and the all-important gambling scene. But we begin this morning with the leader of our wolf pack, Sal Palantonio, who is embedded with the Mayweather camp. And Sal, tell us, what is the feeling in the Mayweather camp this morning on fight day?
Good morning. It is fight day. It is fight morning, Tony, here at T-Mobile Arena. This is what America wants to see. Here is the ring. This is Conor McGregor's corner right here. Ray, show it to everybody. And let's show Floyd Mayweather's corner way down there on the other end in the Corona Extra boxing ring here at T-Mobile Arena. Beautiful ring, beautiful colors. Well, these two fighters will get in about 15 and a half hours, and they will go at one another ferociously. That is what the Mayweather camp is expecting. I've been embedded with them all week. There are three things to remember on the doorstep of the biggest fight, the last fight of Floyd Mayweather's career. One, he's at peace with this being his final act. Number two, he is committed not to get caught up in the trash talk. Matter of fact, tweeting about 8 hours ago, talking doesn't win fights. And today, in the final hours, he'll be at home, about 22 minutes away from this arena, at home, resting, relaxing, rejuvenating, and getting ready to come to T-Mobile to fight Conor McGregor in the biggest fight of his life. Tony?
Sal, we can't wait. We'll be back with you throughout this morning. In the meantime, we are joined by none other than undisputed IBF and WBO light heavyweight champ of the world, Andre Ward, here to help us analyze what we're supposed to expect tonight. But the simple thing, Andre, it's fight day. What is it like for a fighter on a day like today?
Yeah, fight day is interesting because it's a time to get mentally right and regroup and get centered. Physically, you're trying to recover from the 2-month, 3-month training camp and get yourself right. And it's interesting because it can be a lonely time. all the festivities, all the family flying in, all the different things, all the hoopla. But you got to remember that I'm the person that they're coming to see. So I think that's what both guys are doing today. But Floyd's not a regular guy. Apparently he's did some partying this week. He hung out late last night. Apparently that's what he's telling us. So he's a different character. He's not the best case study, but typically it's just a time to get yourself together and get ready to go perform.
Yeah, how does one stay mentally sharp just hours, right?
Yeah, it's tough because, you know, doubt can creep in. You can have a great training camp. You can look good, feel good, but that week of, the day of, doubt can creep in. Your biggest fears can creep in because the moment is right before you. So that's when you really have to lock in and remind yourself why you're here.
Well, someone who is actually looking mentally sharp on the other side is Conor McGregor, who is basically saying that Mayweather may not be able to keep with his fast attack and is predicting an early knockout of Mayweather. For more on the McGregor camp, we are with Brett Okamoto, who has been embedded with Conor all week. Brett, what is the sense from the camp this morning ahead of fight day?
Yeah, well, good morning, Tony. And right now, I'm sitting about 10 feet away from the ring that you just saw with Sal. I'm sitting in a seat that tonight will cost you about $35,000 to sit in, but right now I'm enjoying it all to myself. And the mood of Conor McGregor's camp has been the same really throughout all these preparations. He is confident. You saw him at the weigh-in here in this arena yesterday. He was extremely animated, and sometimes that can be a bad thing. You're like, is this guy out of his mind? Is he wasting all of this energy prior to the fight? But I saw him immediately backstage after that crazy weigh-in, and he was calm. He is completely ready to go. He's putting that weight back on. It's not a very exciting day for Conor McGregor until he gets to this arena. So how about the UFC, though? How is the UFC doing? Dana White, Ari Emanuel, who purchased the UFC last year, their biggest star going into the boxing ring, how are they doing? I spoke to Emanuel yesterday. He said he's not getting much sleep. He goes to bed at 10. Every single night he wakes up at 1:30. He can't sleep anymore because he's so excited. They get to be fans for this one. They want Conor McGregor to go in and knock out Floyd Mayweather tonight. We'll see if it happens.
Thank you so much, Brett. We'll also be back with you throughout the day. Now, Andre, what is on the line for both the UFC and boxing at the end of the day when all is said and done?
I mean, this is about bragging rights. I mean, there's been this huge debate historically between both combat sports about who's the best. Are MMA fighters tougher and better than fighters? If a true boxer fights an MMA fighter in an octagon, what's going to happen? Now we're getting the opposite effect. We're getting a fighter who's the best at his sport, MMA, and Conor McGregor coming to the boxing ring with no MMA rules. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of money being made, a lot of attention being brought on both sports. But make no mistake about it, both combat sports want to stand tall and see whose guy is going to reign supreme.
Well, we're about 15 and a half hours away from finding out. We'll see who gets the bragging rights. Andre, thank you so much for the insight. Now, in the meantime, my friends, Las Vegas police say they're expecting an additional 250,000 visitors here on the Vegas Strip. Keep in mind that only 18,000 will be present at T-Mobile Arena. For more on this, we welcome in our investigative reporter, TJ Quinn. TJ, what are Vegas police telling you about the security concerns ahead of tonight's fight?
Well, the security concerns are significant. You've got several different levels. One, there have been several high-profile terrorist attacks around the world in recent months. Barcelona, France, Manchester, they're well aware of that. But that's something that's not new for Las Vegas. They're very aware that because it's an international tourist destination, that's always a threat. With a fight crowd, it's something different. What they say is back to the days of Mike Tyson. You've got that extra 250,000 people coming to town. You've got the normal concerns, but now you've got a crowd that is fired up, that half the crowd is here really for one guy, half for the other. I asked Sergeant Tom Jenkins of the Las Vegas Police Department what he was expecting tonight, and he said, actually, the trouble already started Friday after the weigh-in.
Just like it is now, just melee. Everybody, all the testosterone is flowing. Everybody's a boxer. Everybody wants to clash. We ought to just let the boxers do it. For this fight, it's to keep the McGregor crew away from the Mayweather crew. We got a little taste of it today. The flags, the banners, and that kind of sets people off. And then, you add the heat to it, and then here we go. It's game on out here.
Well, when I asked him what they were preparing for, he said, well, we're hoping for a nice night where people enjoy the fight. I said, how often does that happen? He said, never. When I asked, well, so what are you preparing for? He said, D-Day. Guys?
He did indeed. Thank you so much, TJ, for the report. Now, when we come back from Vegas, the business side of this, the money, yes, as this is expected to be the most gambled fight in boxing history. We got you covered here live from Beer Park Rooftop. You're seeing the MGM Grand right there. It's Fight Day in Vegas Sports Center with you, getting you ready for Mayweather-McGregor. Elle?
All right. Thank you, Antonietta Collins. We'll have that.